Hello, body on the side. Here I am, off to the side. I'm doing this so I can get, the whole graphic of what I'm discussing as far as the biblical heritage chart today. We're going to cover Biblical Racial Reconciliation, Lesson 4, Part 2, where we're going to cover the descendants of Shem. Okay? We're going to discuss Shem, and sometime I'm going to go back and forth between descendants of Shem and Ham because I want to show how they dwelled in the same land space and they cohabitated together. I also want to address on a racial level how people sometimes describe Shem as being of olive skin tone, which is a strange concept to me. We're going to address that in the video. And then we're also going to share with you photographs of what these ancient people look like based on some wall paintings that are from 1800 BC and 2000 BC, and then some that are from 3000 BC before Christ. So let's begin. We're going to go to scriptures and go to Genesis chapter 10, starting with verse 21. We're going to go through from verse 21 to 31. Genesis chapter 10, verse 21. Sons were also born to Shem, who was Japheth's older brother, the father of all the sons of Eber. Shem's sons were Elam, Ashur, Arpachshad, Lud, and Aram. Aram's sons were Uz, Hul, Gether, and Mash. Arpachshad fathered Shelah, and Shelah fathered Eber. 2 sons were born to Eber. The name of the first was Peleg, because in his days the land was divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. Joktan fathered Elmodad, Shelah, Hazah, Marbeth, Jerah, Hadoram, Uzal, Diklah, Obal, Abimael, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. All of these are Joktan's sons. Their dwelling space was from Mesha till you come towards Sephar, the eastern hill country. These are Shem's sons according to their families, according to their languages and their lands, according to their nations. Now, as you can see, we have the descendants of Shem here. I'm going to share with you the name of the descendants and the land spaces, what they are recognized as present day. So for Elam, this is known as present day Iran. For Ashur, this is known as Assyria or present day Syria. Arpachshad is known as present day Iraq. Then you have Lud, who in the Bible is not recorded as having any descendants, but I believe based on how the maps show Lud in 2 different land space areas, one in northern Africa and one that's closer to Assyria, Syria, and Turkey, that Lud may also be a descendant of Mizraim under the Luddites. Mizraim, which is also the Egyptian. Then you have Aram. Aram is what we call present-day Jordan. As you can see, based on some of the names of the descendants of Shem and the descendants of Ham, that descendants' names and their land spaces were shared. For example, you have Havilah here under Cush, one of Cush's children, and you have one of Cush's grandchildren, Sheba. You'll see here under Joktan. Joktan has a child that's Sheba in land space, and Havilah also here, so they're shared. You'll see that Cush's son Nimrod, based on what we shared regarding him, he ruled a lot of this land space and area known as Babel, Syria, Iran, Iraq. He was a ruler over what they say is Shinar, and some of the land spaces and the names that are given shows that he ruled over a lot of this area, also that corresponds to Elam and Ashur and Arpachshad. So I'm going to share with you guys a map that shows the land spaces. Here's a map that I want to share with you. As you can see on this map, we have, as I mentioned before, blood is here in North Africa and also over here towards Turkey and Syria. You'll see where, of course, Cush is here, and he's been, his descendants are all heading towards Asia also. Now you'll see where the land spaces are shared. Here you see there's Sheba, there's Havilah. I believe when it says that Peleg was named because the land was divided, that at one point in time this whole area, the Horn of Africa, Saudi Arabia, were all combined, that it was one land space. And then something happened. I don't know if it was an earthquake or what, and the land became divided. But still, Havilah has a side that's in Arabia and also in Africa. And you'll see where Sheba is also a space shared in Saudi Arabia and in Africa. So that's what I believe the explanation that is given for these land spaces. Now let's discuss skin tone, okay? Because as you can see, these Shem and Ham, they shared their land spaces amongst each other. They married, intermarried, and warred, or what have you, one another. But I'm going to pause this video, and then I'm going to share with you some photographs of the people who used to rule in these areas, okay? Okay, the photos that I'm going to share with you are going to be wall paintings of the ancient Elamite people, which date back to the 1800, 2000 BC, before Christ. And then I'm also going to share a wall sculpture and wall painting of the Assyrian or Babylonian, region that dates back to about 3000 BC, before Christ. So the reason why I'm sharing these photos is because people try to describe the descendants of Shem as being of olive skin tone. And that's an abstract way to describe a skin tone. When you look up olive, it has three shades: green, brown, and pitch black. Now, I'm certain the descendants of Shem are not green in color or tone, but they are brown and black people. As I said before, they shared land space with the descendants of Ham, and they intermarried with one another. So instead of saying this abstract, their olive skin tone, I think it's a way that people try to avoid the fact that these were brown and black people. And they need to shy away from doing that. It's deceptive. And it's not true, most of all. Hollywood depicts all the time these folks as being European or white in skin tone. And people, like I said, would say to me, skin color doesn't matter. And I get that. But to me, if it doesn't matter, then there should not be a problem with sharing the truth. We should never trade the truth of God for a lie, and just be honest. And we shouldn't be fearful of doing that either when we worship the Most High God in spirit and in truth. So now I'm going to share these photos with you so you can see the actual skin tone of the people who lived in these regions. Here's a wall painting of an ancient Elamite. As you can see, he's dark brown skin, and he has his cow, in this wall painting with him. He's not a greenish tone or pitch black, but he is dark brown. You can see here is a photo of him and a few other friends with this bull. And as you can see, they're dark brown skinned folks. That's what they are. Okay. Now, the next photo I'm going to share with you will be of a Syrian ruler or Babylonian ruler. And you'll see there's a sculpture of him, and then there will be a wall painting of him that I'm going to share with you guys. Okay, this is the wall sculpture. And as you can see, his hair texture is nappy, wavy, kinky. Here is a close-up of another wall sculpture. And as you can see, his beard and his hair, they're kinky. He has afro features. Okay. Now here are wall paintings that are in color. They have a blue background, but you see the same kinky beard and hair, but the skin tone. Just notice the fact that he's a dark brown skinned person. Here's a closer up picture of this ruler. This ruler could be related to Nimrod, could be Nimrod himself for all we know. But the reason I'm making this point is just to show that these are how the descendants of that region look, and here's their skin tone. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. Now I want to briefly go back to the biblical heritage chart because I want to point out the fact that we see Abram here. Abram is a descendant of Shem. He falls up under the lineage of Eber. And if you go to Genesis chapter 14, this is the first time you ever hear the terminology Hebrew being mentioned. I've been told by some people that Hebrew is just a way to describe the descendants of Eber. I think the name Hebrew has a much deeper meaning. But we'll discuss that later on down the line. Just based on the book of Hebrews, it means something much more deep than that. Now, as we can see from here, when you read Genesis chapter 14, there's a king of a land, him and the king of Sodom and Gomorrah and a king of Gomorrah, and two other kings were going through villages, pillaging and taking property and kidnapping people. And they happened to have kidnapped Abraham's nephew named Lot. And so what happened is Abraham got together his people who were in his camp, the warring men under him, and they went and they overtook these 5 kings and brought Lot back and other captives and pillaged and got all their stuff. So what happens in Genesis chapter 14 is they met with Melchizedek, who is, some people believe, is the Prince of Peace, our Messiah. And they offer a peace offering. So they make peace with Abraham because, him and his men had basically put those 5 kings in their place. I just want to show that even within descendants of Shem, the king of Elam warred against, and Abraham had to come against him. After they brought the peace offering, Abraham said, I'm going to give you back all your stuff. I want you to know that I worship the Most High God, and He delivered you in my hands. And I don't want you to say that I gained any wealth from you guys, because only I gained everything that I have from the Most High God. And soon thereafter, you'll see in Genesis 15 where Elohim brings a covenant with Abram, and his name is soon thereafter changed to Abraham. So that's all we're going to sum up for the descendants of Shem. I just wanted to share that with you. I hope you guys have learned something new and fresh. And I pray that you're able to share it with your children about the heritage, the biblical heritage that I share with you guys today. The next lesson, we're going to cover descendants of Japheth, the European, who have gotten a very rough rap. And so, guys, we're going to cover them in detail. You don't hear much about them in Torah, but you do hear a lot about them in Tanakh. Tanakh is just the scriptures, the section of the scriptures that comes after the 5 books, the first 5 books of the Bible, Torah, and it comes before what's called the Brit Hadashah, or the New Testament scriptures. So you'll see them, descendants of Japheth, being mentioned when it comes to some of the prophetic scriptures there. You still hear about some of these others, Elam and Cush. They're mentioned also in Tanakh, but mainly Japheth is not heard in Torah, but mainly in Tanakh. And we'll share that with you when we do part 3 of lesson 4. Thank you so much for joining us, Body Messiah. I hope and pray that you join us again. And may Adonai cover you with his shalom peace. We love you guys. Bye-bye.